What is going on, everybody? I am Israel Rivera here with my main man Christian Simpson here on an early Thursday. Well, it's not early Thursday, but it's a late Thursday night here. But before I start the show, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast here at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And in case you missed this live feed, please check us out here on all podcast streams where podcasts can be heard. That's Apple, Amazon, Samsung, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Ladies and gentlemen, as the Prime Sports World brings you a double dose here with your favorite show, College Football Showdown, as we start to turn up the heat. My man, what's going on, Christian?
Man, look, it's another year you and I are doing this, man. I'm always thrilled to work with you. I wouldn't be on Prime Sports World without you. So, anytime you ask me, yo, you want to do a show? Look, I'm dropping what I'm doing for you. College football is here. There's a lot that I'm sure we're going to talk about. I know we did our conference winners and who we have getting to the playoff and who we have as potential Heisman candidates. I mean, what's in the air right now. I mean, look, I just see game day right now. Lee Corso saying, not so fast. Kirk giving his breakdown, who I think is a great football mind, by the way. I was just saying that to myself the other day. But yeah, he's brilliant. Just seeing him call NFL games and then balancing out what he's doing in college as well. Like, he's truly a brilliant football mind. I mean, I think it's going to be a great year, both college football and the NFL.
Man, absolutely. You know what? Like, I forgot that what's his name is doing NFL with Al Michaels on Thursday night. Kirk Herbstreit. Yeah, Kirk was doing both. But he's actually I mean, we all know how good he is in the booth in college, but he's actually pretty damn good in the pros as well. And he gives you that extra insight of how they used to be as college players and how they developed into this great pro player, or how they're still kind of making their way. Or I love when he talks about the rookies too. Oh yeah, he used to do this at Georgia or this at Clemson, and now he's translating it well into. So Kirk is a great football mind. I can't believe Lee Corso's still going. That is in itself, great right there.
Absolutely.
And yeah, just honestly, this week is kind of weird, Christian, because it's kind of like that week 0. Yeah, it's that week 0 week, and they tie week 1 into like this Saturday, Thursday, Friday, next Saturday, Sunday, into like Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
So that's what they tie week 1 always. So I usually, when you see the games to watch, ladies and gentlemen, I did games to watch from Saturday, Thursday, and Friday, and I left Saturday, Sunday open because we'll preview those games to watch. That's why I put a part 1. If you guys notice, as we get to it, you'll see part 2 next Friday when we talk about Saturday, Sunday. The big chunk of everything. But anyways, let's get into it, man. I mean, the coaches, not the coaches poll, but I got to change that. The AP poll, that's not the coaches poll, that's the AP poll. It's supposed to be the AP poll. I got to change that up. But the AP poll came out, and this is what the AP poll is. This is the coaches poll, ladies and gentlemen. But we got Georgia at number 1. At number 2 is Michigan. Now, in Michigan's interesting. Michigan's a little interesting because you got Jim Harbaugh doing that 3-game self-imposed ban, right?
Right.
And so it's a little interesting because they're gonna have 4 coaches in between those 3 games, kind of calling the shots, right? When it comes down to it, right? So what do you feel about that? Those 4 coaches. I don't know their names off the top of my head. I can kind of look it up, but they're rotating coaches calling the shots. How do you think that's going to affect the first 3 games of Michigan's season?
I don't think it's going to affect much because, I think they have quote unquote easy competition. But what do I always tell you guys?
East Carolina, coming out.
There's no such thing as an easy game in this sport. You're going to get everybody's all. I think Michigan's going to handle business. They're going to take care of business, feed Blake Corum the ball, JJ McCarthy control things, spread the ball around. defense is going to handle things too. I just think these first 3 games are a tune-up, and then we got to believe get into Big Ten play, and then that's when Jim's going to take over, and I think everything will be fine. I agree with the first two of the coaches. I mean, Georgia speaks for itself. They've been the cream of the crop the last 2 years. That 2021 team, Izzy, I used to rave about them all the time. That's the best defense I've ever seen from a college football team. And then Michigan, remember what I told you a couple weeks ago? If there's a team in the country that can give Georgia a problem from a physicality standpoint, it's the Michigan Wolverines. You have to beat Michigan up in the trenches. I mean, you have to beat Georgia up in the trenches, because if you don't, and they establish themselves at the line of scrimmage, it's going to be a long day at the office. Why don't you ask TCU how that went? Because I even remember us breaking that game down, the national championship last year, and you asked me what the first key was for TCU, and what did I say? Establish yourself at the line of scrimmage, and they didn't do it.
No, absolutely, and I think that like you said, I don't think much is going to be, as much as not going to change. I mean, Michigan has, a quote unquote easy non-conference schedule, so to speak. But things can happen. I mean, we saw back when they were ranked in the top 3, or I think they were ranked in the top 3 when Appalachian State came in there and beat them, right? So things can happen at any time. But I just don't, first 3 games is East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green. I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep over those 3 guys. I mean, no disrespect to those teams. No disrespect to those teams, but I'm not going to lose sleep over those 3 guys.
I'm not either.
I mean, they're, like you said, they're going to take care of business. They're going to do, what they're supposed to do. And that's pretty much, dominate the competition. And that's what they're supposed to do. Rolling in at number 3 is Ohio State. At number 4, we got Alabama. I'm just looking at the coaches poll. Ohio State, Alabama was number 3 in the coaches poll, and now they're number 3. They're number 4 in the AP poll, which we kind of expected some teams to kind of fall in and out of, in terms of move up 1 slot, move down 1 slot. LSU's still at number 5 in between the coaches and the AP poll. USC's at number 6, same thing as the coaches poll. Penn State's at number 7, same thing as the coaches poll. They start their season against West Virginia next Saturday. And then on number 8, Florida State. We thought Florida State was going to move up a little bit in the AP poll, and they didn't. They stayed the same at number 8. I think that's highly disrespectful, but I honestly do believe that, I mean, look, Sunday, September 3rd, it's going to get rocking and rolling. It's going to get rocking and rolling.
Look, Izzy, we might as well just say it now. Shameless plug. Man, I can't wait to get my hands on that when I actually start previewing games next week, and I believe that one is first on my agenda. LSU, Florida State. Remember when they played last year? And I know we'll get into it a little more, but here's a little preview before the preview. When we saw them play last year, it was a very sloppy football game. Neither team could take care of the ball. Now, both these teams come in with tremendous hype and tremendous expectations, and this is going to be the 3rd straight year that we see Brian Kelly and Mike Norvell face each other. They did a couple years ago when Brian was at Notre Dame, and then last year, Brian Kelly's debut came against Florida State, and both coaches have each won a game. So let's see who breaks the draw here.
Yeah, last year LSU prevailed. My thing about that game is that both teams, right? It's really going to show, like, how serious we're going to take both teams, right? Like, if it's a close matchup in between those 2 teams, number 8 Florida State, number 5 LSU, I could see where it's like, okay, at the end of the season, one of those 1-loss teams are going to be considered to be in the college football playoff. Because I could see, this being maybe the only loss if Florida State loses, the only loss for Florida State, and they just kind of go on the rest of the season undefeated. Or if Florida State really comes out, proves themselves, beats LSU, I could see Florida State, moving in. They're definitely going to move into the top 5. And they're a real player to be in the college football playoff. I mean, I predicted them to make the college football playoff this season. So definitely both teams got something to prove. I think Florida State has a little bit more to prove this year than LSU, but I think both teams definitely have something to prove.
Yeah, but you know what? With LSU, I just think that bullseye is on Brian Kelly's back more than it ever has been. Even him dating back to being Notre Dame's head coach, because look, he's an SEC country now, and when you're an SEC country, you got to prevail. Because if you don't win, you're going to be out of there. But I'll say this: I think Brian Kelly is one of the 5 best coaches in college football. I mean, wherever he goes, they win. You saw what he did at Eastern Michigan. You saw what they did at Cincinnati. You saw what they did in South Bend. And look at what they did his first year in Baton Rouge. All he needs is that championship. And once he gets that, he's going to be a college football Hall of Famer.
Oh, he's definitely. I mean, if he's not already one, he's on his way to being one.
Yeah, okay.
He's just the one thing about him is just like it's the Harbaugh thing, right? It's like he wins a lot of regular season games. He's been to the national championship before, but he just can't win the big one. He just can't get him to win the big one, and that was the frustration at Notre Dame. And hopefully it's not the frustration that the LSU faithful will receive. But anyways, moving on to rounding out the top 10, we got number 9 Clemson. They're staying in the top 10, and then rounding out the top 10, Washington moves up in the coaches poll. We had Tennessee at number 10, but Tennessee is they in the coaches poll, they're in the AP poll, they're at number 12. So Washington jumps up into the top 10 as opposed to being on the outside looking in. That Washington team is very interesting. I mean, they're led by a Heisman Trophy candidate and Michael Penix Jr. They bring back a veteran-laden team. This is a team that's going to compete with USC for Pac-12 supremacy this season. So, Washington is definitely a player to look out for when it comes down to the college football playoffs. Their first game is next Saturday against Boise State.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Michael Penix Jr., he's the guy that makes that engine go out there for the Huskies. And they're kind of a dark horse team in the Pac-12. Because, you're hearing about USC, you hear about Utah, and you hear about Oregon. You're hearing a little bit more about Oregon State because they have DJ Uiagalelei as their starting quarterback now. But, you got to show a little respect to the Washington Huskies as well.
Absolutely. And then at number 11, we got Texas. In the coaches poll, they were actually number 12, so they move up a slot in the AP poll. And then, like I said, Tennessee moved down to number 12 in the AP poll. So that's interesting. Notre Dame stays there at number 13 in the AP poll, and Utah stays there as well at number 14 in the AP poll as well as the coaches poll. And then number 15, Oregon, same thing, stays the same as the coaches poll. And then at number 16 in the AP poll, we got Kansas State moving up a slot and TCU moving down a slot in the AP poll. So that's interesting. That's an interesting dynamic there, but I mean that's we expected teams to move up or move down in the AP poll and the coaches poll as well. And then number 18, like you said, you mentioned them, Oregon State. They got some expectations as well, right? DJ Uiagalelei has a second chance. I mean, he's probably the best quarterback. They went through 2-3 quarterbacks last year. In Oregon State, they're they're a pro style offense. They're a run heavy. They run the football. Martinez back there. He's a dog back there as a freshman. So I expect Oregon State to keep it going. I think that they'll shock some teams down there in Corvallis this season. And that number 19 in the AP poll, Wisconsin moves up a couple slots here from 21 to 19 from the coaches poll to the AP poll. I think Wisconsin has, they're a player, man. I mean, Tanner Mordecai, Braylon Allen. I mean, that team is going to be, solid as hell next year. So I do agree with them being in the top 20 in the AP poll.
Yeah, I do too. I think they're the favorites to win the Big Ten West. The Big Ten
Mm-hmm.
West it's almost like a crapshoot. You just kind of throw teams out there, and whoever's the most consistent ends up winning the conference. What I'm implying is there's never really a favorite to win the Big Ten West like there
Right.
is Big Ten East. But yeah, I think Luke Fickell is exactly what this program needs, because Paul Chryst he wasn't adapting with the
Right.
game. Young offensive minded coaches are in, and Luke's one of those. He's one of the best offensive minds we have in the country. You have a gunslinger in Tanner Mordecai. Then everything's been there for Wisconsin. They've had the strong offensive line, and they've had the running game. We all know that's going to be the bread and butter of Wisconsin Badger football.
Absolutely.
But defensively, they're always strong as well. Just haven't had that quarterback to really put them over the top. Graham Mertz just didn't move the needle, and Jack Cohn wasn't moving the needle. I think, look, Tanner Mordecai is going to put this team in really strong position to win football games this year.
And he was one of the nation's leader in passing yards last year, passing touchdowns last year. He's top 10 and everything. So at SMU, so that's a big addition for Wisconsin. And then Braylon Allen, obviously, I mean, he's kind of got to be in the Heisman consideration. I would have actually, outside of the two Penn State backs are great, but I got to put Braylon Allen maybe ahead of both of those guys. And I think he's even more talented than Blake Corum. I have to honestly say, but I think Braylon Allen's the best running back in the Big Ten. I'm just saying, I might get killed for that, but I think when it's all said and done, I think Braylon Allen is going to be considered. I mean, he's got the size, he's got the speed, he can run between the tackles. The one thing about Blake Corum is where I know he's proved that he can run between the tackles, but he's a little undersized for a running back to take all of those hits, especially and then with the knee injury, we don't know how he's going to come back with the same explosiveness. I mean, Braylon Allen, I think is next, man. But I mean, you got the two running backs in Singleton and Katron
Allen.
Katron Allen. So
yeah,
man, Big Ten is never shortage of great backs.
It's really not. But I love that tandem for Penn State. Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, they complement each other perfectly. It's almost like a smash and dash. You have that one guy who can just run you over, and then you have the other guy that can beat you with pure speed. Get to the second tier of the defense, then get to the third tier, and he's gone.
Absolutely. And then round out the top 20, Oklahoma moves down to number 20. And then at number 21, we got North Carolina. I expect North Carolina to keep they have what we want to say is the second best quarterback probably in college football in Drake May. Yeah, and I think he's going to keep them in a lot of games. Coach Mac Brown still there. I mean, I don't have many expectations for North Carolina because their defense is still, suspect. Yes, to say the least. They're going to be a player in the ACC, possibly that they'll contend with Clemson, in the ACC and Florida State in the ACC. But I expect them to, stay within that 15 to 20 range probably all season. But we'll see. Their first game is against South Carolina. That's a test right there. Spencer Rattler, going into South Carolina. Drake May, is gonna be tested against a SEC defense. So we'll see how that happens. So see how that goes. And then number 22, we got Ole Miss. Number 23, we got Texas A&M. And then at number 24, we got Tulane, who basically, moves down a slot. And then in the coaches poll, Texas Tech falls out all the way out of the AP poll, and Iowa moves in, taking over in the AP poll. And, Texas Tech falls out. So that's interesting to see that, Iowa is a top 25 team in the AP poll, and they were just on the outside looking in the coaches poll. So that's definitely interesting to watch out for. I know Texas Tech, they're always going to have a high-powered offense. They're always going to have a chance in the Big 12. There's something to look out for. I think they'll be a top 25 at some point. South Carolina will be a top 25 team. We'll see how Florida reacts when they play in the rematch against Utah. I think they could be a top 25 team. If they could definitely beat Utah in Utah, which is a tough place to play. I definitely think they could be in the top 25. And that actually kind of moves me on to the week 1 games to watch. This is a part 1 here because, like I said, I'm just tallying in this Saturday, Thursday, Friday, and then we'll talk about part 2 Saturday, Sunday games next week. Yep. We don't want to give you the whole shebang.
Yeah, and look,
right
man,
out
we gotta
back.
keep.
We
We
gotta
gotta
let you
keep.
keep you.
Yeah, man, we gotta keep
coming.
Waiting a little bit, you know.
Yeah, and Christian got to bring out his shameless plugs next week.
See, look, people. This is why I work with this man, because this man not only is a friend, this is my brother. And he's always looking out for your boy. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I knew I couldn't bring out all the whole works because I know Christian has something cooking. I know he wanted to talk about some of those games and he was working on it probably next week. So we'll keep a part 2 open for week 1 next week for those Saturday, Sunday games next Friday. But first game this weekend, in Dublin, Ireland, Notre Dame, Navy. I guess that's a home game for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Sam Hartman on the field. This game, usually Navy and Notre Dame play later in the season. So it's kind of interesting that they play week 1 here early on.
They do. And I like Notre Dame here. I just think I can't wait to see this offense with Sam Hartman on the field under center. Because what have we been saying? Everything's been in place for the Fighting Irish, Izzy. They can run the ball. They've had strong offensive linemen. They've had good serviceable weapons. No, they're not going to have Michael Mayer this year. And then defensively, that's going to be the strong point again. This is going to be Coach Freeman's second year. I think he's going to be a little more comfortable this year because you remember they were calling for his job literally after 3 weeks. And I'm just saying to myself, look, let this guy develop, let this guy recruit, let him bring in his own players because a lot of those guys were Coach Kelly leftovers. From the year before. But I think Notre Dame, they're gonna be a player to watch this year.
So interesting. This was a close game last November. They squeaked out a 3-point win against Navy last season. But yeah, you're right. After 3 weeks, they lost to Ohio State, which was a close game. Until the fourth quarter. Later in the fourth quarter, it was a closer game. And then they lost, and then losing to Marshall was just that shouldn't have never happened.
Yeah, but look, the one thing I'll give Notre Dame, they held that Ohio State offense under 30 points. They only held them to 21 points. So that says something right there. When you can hold an offense like that under 28 or 30, you've done a good job. But they still lost the game at the end of the day.
And they're a 3-touchdown favorite in this game. Nobody's really giving Navy a shot to win this game. So yeah, look, I'm just excited to see how the offense looks under Sam Hartman. He's in a new offense, right? It's more of a pro style offense as opposed to a spread offense as where he was at Wake Forest. So I'm excited as a Notre Dame fan to see how Sam Hartman looks with his new team. So and then we got number 6 USC. Going up against San Jose State. This one is in Southern Cal. USC's 30-something point favorite to win this game. Honestly, I don't really expect. I just expect USC to beat them by 40-some points. I really just want to see Caleb Williams dominate, like as he did last season. And he just, starts out his Heisman campaign. He's looking to be the first guy since Archie Griffin to win back-to-back Heismans. So that's and he has a real good shot at doing that. Caleb Williams
he does. Especially with the coach that he has. Look, Lincoln Riley, I think, is the best offensive-minded guy in the country. He's college football's version of Sean Payton.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, USC should walk in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if USC scored 60 points in this game.
I would. You know what? Honestly, you'll start to see the backups probably by the third quarter.
I can see it.
Yeah, by the middle third quarter, I think you'll start to see backups coming in, and really, starting to get some reps because there's no reason to be in this game against San Jose State. You're definitely going to outclass them. I think Caleb Williams is going to put up some numbers in the first half. And they're going to be up big, 35, 40 points. So I think, maybe by middle of the third quarter, maybe late third quarter, early fourth quarter, you'll start to see some of those backups coming in for USC. And then moving on to a Thursday game. I believe this is a Thursday game. We got Florida going into Utah. This is, in Salt Lake City. This is a rematch of last year, right? When Utah went into Florida. Now Florida's going into Utah, and Florida came out with the W. Anthony Richardson, had a hell of a game that first game against Utah. But now this is a different. I mean, you still have, the same guys, coming back here for Utah. Yeah. So how do you see this game playing out? I think Utah is a 4-point favorite in this game. How do you see this one shaking out?
I could see this one being close for the first 3 quarters, and I just think Utah's going to use that home field advantage, and that's the one thing about Utah. They're not your typical college football team. You see what I'm saying? What I mean by that is they're a team. They just, they run downhill. They move the football up the field with efficiency and consistency. They get good quarterback play. They take care of business on the defensive side. What I mean is they don't use a lot of trick plays to try and push the ball up the field. They want to man up, play big boy football, run somebody over, punch somebody in the mouth, win the battle of the trenches up front. And then this is the second year for Billy Napier in Florida. Want to see what he does. He has a new quarterback to develop since Anthony Richardson is now throwing passes for the Indianapolis Colts. I think Utah gets their revenge. That was a tough way to open the season last year, having to fly across the country. Now Florida has to do that. I like Utah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and like you said, man, I like Utah too. I think Cameron Rising is back-to-back Pac-12 titles. He's done nothing but win. I mean, he doesn't get enough credit for how good he really is. When it comes to like the nation's top quarterbacks. I mean, guys like, we're talking about Bo Nix. We're talking about Michael Penix. We're talking about Caleb Williams. We're talking about DJ Uiagalelei ahead of him this season. So, and then also, I mean, we're even talking about Shedeur Sanders being better than him. And so Cameron Rising I kind of get the gist that he's that guy that has a chip on his shoulder. He plays certainly like it. And so I think this year, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Utah wins another Pac-12 title. I definitely know that USC has they have Utah. They want to play Utah again. They really do. Because they kept them out the CFP last year. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if Utah makes it to the Pac-12 championship game again and gives, USC a run for their money, especially with the team that they have coming back. So, but I got Utah winning that game. And then another game to watch here is Nebraska versus Minnesota. And the reason why I got Nebraska versus Minnesota, because this is the Matt Rule era for Nebraska. Right?
It is.
And so we know what Matt Rule was capable of at Baylor. We know he had the high-powered offenses at Baylor. Minnesota is a 7.5-point favorite. But, what are your expectations for Matt Rule in Nebraska this season? I know he hasn't really gotten the chance to get his recruits in the door yet, but he's got to work with what he has. What do you see? What do you think? What do you give the expectations for Matt Rule, and then also this game? Who do you think wins? And also Minnesota kind of going through some controversies themselves, right? With PJ Fleck, kind of like hazing. I wouldn't say similar situation as Northwestern, but there's been some rumblings of PJ Fleck, with some hazing situation within like that within the program as well. So that might be weighing in on Minnesota's conscience as well. But how do you see this game shaking out, and what are your expectations for Nebraska?
Yeah, for Nebraska, like you said, Matt hasn't really got the chance to implement his recruits because that's coaching, man. You want to be able to have guys that know you, the ins and outs of your system. And personally, I think Matt's a better college coach than he is an NFL coach. It just didn't pan in Charlotte with the Carolina Panthers. But I'm glad to see him back in the college game. Minnesota, just a couple years ago, seemed like we were talking about Minnesota being the best team in the Big Ten West. And PJ Fleck, I think a lot of people were looking at him as that guy to be the next guy to take a bigger job at a bigger institution, but he stayed in Minnesota. This game could really go either way, but I'm gonna lean Minnesota by a field goal.
I'm thinking it's gonna be a little closer too. I mean, one thing about this year, I think he did get Sims from Georgia Tech, who's a running kind of spread option kind of quarterback here. So I think that's going to bode well for what he likes to do. I think Rat Rule likes to push the ball. I think Nebraska's going to shock some people. I think Nebraska will be a bowl team. I mean, it's not saying much. I mean, you only got to get 6 wins to get a bowl game, or 5 wins, or whatever the case is. I think it's 6, right? But adding a guy like Sims, I think is he's going to be able to get outside the pocket. And you might see a situation where it's a dual quarterback situation there in Nebraska, where Sims is doing more of the running, and you have another quarterback coming in there doing some passes. You might see some dual stuff there in Nebraska, but as of right now, Jeff Sims is the number 1 quarterback, on the depth chart. So he's a big boy. He can get outside the pocket. He can run. I mean, I think Matt Rule likes those type of quarterbacks for his system. I actually do have Minnesota winning in a close one as well. So, but we'll see. I think Matt Rule is going to do some good things there in Nebraska. And then this is Friday. I think this is the kickoff game here. Louisville versus Georgia Tech. How do you see this one shaking out? Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, it took me a long time it didn't take me that. I didn't have many games to have for games to watch Saturday through Friday, because they don't have many on the slate that are, you know what I mean? Like that are like appeasing to watch.
Right.
So, I got to come up with something, but I think Louisville, Georgia Tech should be an interesting game. I think I think that's a neutral site game. I think that game might be played in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken, but I think that's a neutral site game. I got Louisville winning that football game, but Georgia Tech might do some things. I think Louisville is the favorite in this game as well.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm 7.5 point favorite.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on this one. I like Louisville as well. You just never know what Georgia Tech team is going to show up. They show flashes of potential, and then they come back down to reality a little bit. I could see Louisville winning this in a shootout.
Yeah, definitely. I can see Louisville winning this in a shootout as well. But yeah, definitely, man, college football is definitely on the horizon here. Just a couple more days until the first games here on Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. And then going off to our Heisman watch here, as we always like to do, we got to start out with the week 1 Heisman. I know we did a preseason poll, and I got 10 names up here for you guys to look out for. So if you guys want to place your wagers, place your bets on who's the favorite, I hope you guys are watching Prime Sports World, because there's some big money to be made when it comes down to some of those sporting bets on who can win the Heisman this season. But at number 1, definitely I got Caleb Williams from USC. At number 2, I got Michael Penix Jr. I think he's going to put up numbers there at Washington. He put up numbers last year, but his team is going to be consistently in the top 10. They might be a player, in the CFP when it's all said and done. Number 3, I got Jordan Travis. I mean, these are all going to fluctuate when it's all said and done. I got Jordan Travis there at number 3, Florida State. At number 4, I got Bo Nix, Oregon. He's another. They're gonna, Oregon's gonna win a lot of games. They're gonna be in the hunt. Not in the hunt for the CFP, but Oregon's gonna be a player as well to win the Pac-12 championship. To contend with USC. But Bo Nix is definitely gonna put up some numbers this season. And then rounding out my top 5, I got Drake May from UNC. He's just gonna put up numbers regardless at UNC. So that's just that. And then my dark horses, I know Blake Corum was a dark horse. I just got to see how that knee looks this season.
Yeah.
Before I could even put him back in the top 5. He might have lost explosiveness. Marvin Harrison Jr. Is another dark horse for me from Ohio State. Now, I put those names. I want to talk about those names first, because I know people are probably watching the show and like, damn, you got 5 quarterbacks in the top 5. I'm like, well, they're all going to put up numbers, and they're all going to be in the top 10. And they're going to be contending for their conference championship, right? Jordan Travis is going to be contending for ACC. He's going to probably be in the CFP. USC, Florida State's probably going to be in CFP. Caleb Williams, probably going to be in the CFP, maybe, possibly, right? Michael Penix, another one. Washington's going to be a top 10 team. Oregon's going to be a top 10 team. UNC, just Drake May, just off the basis that he's going to put up numbers. If Marvin Harrison Jr., I know Kyle McCord is the quarterback, old high school teammate of his, but another thing, one thing is just like wide receivers, man. They they just don't get love when it comes down to the Heisman. You know what I mean? When it comes down to the voting. You know
Yeah, unless your name is Devontae Smith. But
yeah, right. And you put up numbers like Devontae Smith.
Yeah, but I will say this though. Marvin Harrison Jr., look, I don't disagree with you having him on this list, Izzy, but I don't think he's going to be as strong as he was last year because now there's a whole year of film and tape on him. He's going to see a lot of double teams this year. He's going to see a lot of single high safety looks over the top.
And that's gonna open up for what's his name?
Egbuka, yup. And I think he's gonna be the beneficiary of this. But I agree with your take on Blake Corum. But I want to say this about Drake May. Izzy, you and I talk all the time, on the mic, off the mic. What have we said about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills? They depend on him too much. UNC depends on Drake May a little too much. I need to see British Brooks. And I need to see how this running game can step up to kind of take pressure off of Drake.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then my other dark horse is Sam Hartman from Notre Dame. I mean, he broke all types of records in the ACC at Wake Forest. He's coming to a new offensive system, but I think he's going to translate well. I think he did that for his draft stock, right? He went to a team that has a pro-style offense. He wants to play in a pro-style offense that he can prove that, okay, those numbers aren't just inflated because, you know, it's a spread college offense. In the ACC, we're going to play a national schedule with Notre Dame. We're going to play a harder non-conference schedule. So with a pro-style offense. So I think Sam Hartman went there. I think he thought about that when he went to Notre Dame. But I actually have him. I mean, he's one of the most beautiful throwers of the football in college football. And then Jaden Daniels from LSU. I mean, he showed his work. I mean, transferring from Arizona State, going to LSU into the SEC. I mean, he showed out last year. And I think he's going to take another step in Brian Kelly's offense. And then I got to have Brock Byers here, you know, from Georgia. As a dark horse. I know he's probably a long shot to win it, but I got to show him love week 1 of the season because he is probably one of the best players in college football. When it's all said and done, he's going to be, you know, playing at a high level on Sundays.
Yeah, God, I never thought I'd see myself saying this, but I know I said he has a lot of Jeremy Shockey in him, but he's almost used in the same capacity like a Travis Kelce, that wide receiver stuck in the body of a tight end, because he has the capacities of a wide receiver. They can line him wide, they can line him in the slot, he can block when it's necessary up the field, he can catch the ball, he can move well in space, and he's a red zone threat. Pretty similar to what Travis Kelce does for the Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Brock Byers has it all. I mean, I know I talked about Michael Mayer maybe, you know, should have had slightly better numbers here and there at Notre Dame last year, and I thought he got robbed a little bit of the Mackey Award, especially with the number of votes that Brock Byers got. But he did it. Brock Byers did it on the number 1 team in the nation. In the SEC. So, you know, that has to account for something. And, you know, Brock Byers is definitely, I mean, like you said, man, he's going to be playing on Sundays at a high level. He does have a lot of Travis Kelce in him. He has a lot of Jeremy Shockey in him. Like you said, I could see a little bit of, you know, I mean, in the mold of those Miami tight ends like Kellen Winslow, Jeremy Shockey, you know, Jimmy Graham. You know, he's not as tall as Jimmy Graham or Kellen Winslow, but I mean, he's got some red zone. He's got that red zone potential, like those guys do. You know what I mean? So exactly. It's he's just a scary. Like if I'm a defense going against Georgia, I mean, I'm keying in on him, but it's like he's gonna get his regardless, and that's a scary thing. That's what you see with Travis Kelce every Sunday. You know, every week teams are keying in on Travis Kelce. But he's so good that he just gets his regardless. It doesn't matter if you key in on him. He's gonna find his spots in the zone. He's gonna find his spots in the red zone. I mean, they're gonna find ways to get him the football and make him successful. Exactly. That's the same thing with Brock Byers. They're gonna find a way to get him the football regardless. He's just too good to be stopped on every week. I mean, he's gonna put up numbers regardless. He may be a guy that scores a touchdown every single week this season.
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah, Brock is he's the ignition to this offense. Once he gets it going, everybody feeds off of what he does. He's an energy guy.
Absolutely. And, I left off some names. Braylon Allen was left off. We talked about him as being a possible. I mean, I have to see how he does this season under, when you have a quarterback like Tanner Mordecai. I mean, you have to he keeps you honest in the passing game. Last year, the teams could stack the box against him, and he still put up numbers last year. So I just imagine. I think Braylon Allen can have 1,800 yards this year. That's how good I think he is, man. I'm sorry. That's how good I think Braylon Allen is. He's going to be a first-round pick at some point. I left off Quinn Ewers from Texas. I think the one thing about Quinn Ewers, I think he's one small injury away from a Manning taking over.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, the writing is on the wall. I think at some point for Arch Manning to take over. Because look, Quinn is good, but Arch might be that piece that puts Texas over the top.
Yeah, absolutely. I left off JJ McCarthy, who's a pretty damn good quarterback himself from Michigan. I also left off, and I'm gonna give a shout out to this kid, true sophomore, LSU, Harold Perkins Jr. Best defensive player in SEC right now.
Look, you should see the look on my face right now. This kid is the real deal. He was meant to play middle linebacker. You know who he kind of reminds me of a little bit? I see a lot of Devin White in his game.
Yeah, I like that comparison.
I see a lot of, like, just explosive, quick to the punch. You know what I'm saying? Just that man in the middle, and he's gonna be great this year.
Yeah, and he's only a sophomore, so they got him for another year at LSU. I mean, what a treat to have this type of talent, Brian Kelly, to have this type of talent on your defense. I mean, we saw him last year against Alabama. We saw him against like a bunch of teams. I mean, he was just sideline to sideline. I mean, when he's blitzing, he's like a torpedo. He gets after the quarterback when he's in blitz packages. I mean, he's the real deal. They could put him They could put him on the edge. They could, he could stay in the middle. They could just put him everywhere, and he's good in pass protection, in the passing game as well. Yep. So I mean, covering tight ends and covering over the middle. I mean, I don't want to be a small slot guy going over the middle and letting Harold Perkins tee off on me. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't either. Yeah. So I mean, he's definitely, and that's saying something. He's the best. I'm saying that he's the best defensive player as a sophomore. Saying that is something, especially with the league, especially with all the guys that Georgia has, all the guys that Alabama has. I mean,
yeah,
that's saying something. So the guys that South Carolina has, Tennessee has. I mean, the SEC is going to be loaded with defensive guys, and he's the very best. And he's only a sophomore. He's only 20 years old. I mean, it's incredible to see some of these young dudes how good they are. But anyways. That's our show for this week. We'll come back next Friday and bring you some more stuff. Christian will come back with some shameless plugs of himself.
You are. Come on.
Absolutely. We'll bring some games to watch. I know next Saturday and Sunday. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday and Sunday on Labor Day week. That is probably the cream of the crop of the game. So we'll go more deep in detail on some of those games, ladies and gentlemen. But like I said, before I get out of here, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And in case you missed the live feed, go check us out on all streaming platforms where podcasts can be heard. But yes, this has been a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Prime Sports Show, bringing the heat 24/7. Here with my main man, Christian Simpson. And as I like to say, in case I miss you, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
And I like to add it as well. Izzy, you know where I'm going with this. Holla at your boy.
Holla at your boy, ladies and gentlemen. Peace out, and y'all have a good night, and we'll see you guys. I think we'll see you guys on Monday. So Prime Sports World taking a 3-day weekend off. Kind of got to cool off. We brought too much heat this week, ladies and gentlemen.
We brought a little too much, but man, I can't wait. Football season is here, and we will see you guys next Friday on College Football Showdown.
Period. Sayonara, suckers. Peace out, baby.
My man.